What's up everyone? In this video I'm going to talk about the Nikon D3100 and see if it's still good in 2024 and so on. And you know what? Yes, this camera is still a very capable camera in 2024, especially if you're just starting out too. And in this video I'm going to talk about the specs, share some videos, and share some pictures with the D3100. The Nikon D3100 was released right when the mirrorless cameras began to get really popular back in 2010. This 14-year-old DSLR camera is an entry-level camera too, and it's probably the easiest and funnest camera I've used so far. Just because it's a more modern DSLR, when it was released, it was actually $700. Now you can find the body for under $150 or less depending on the condition it's in. Now let's just go to the specs of it. The Nikon D3100 has a 14.2 megapixel DX-format CMOS sensor. It has a 3-inch LCD screen, it has 11 AF points, and the ISO ranges from 100 to 3200, and it can go up to 12,800. And we'll get back to that low light performance soon in this video. It also can record videos and does HD movies, or high definition video. And that's one of the pros about this camera, is that it does do video recording. It also has excellent image quality, and it's very easy to learn with and to use. There is a beginner's guide in the camera that you can use too, so that's going to really help you, especially if you're a beginner, so you're not really overwhelmed with all the buttons and all the settings that you'll see. Just check out the beginner's guide in the D3100, and I think that'll be a pretty good for you to start with. It also has live view too. That's one of the things I like about this camera. It has great ISO performance, it's lightweight and small, and I really like it in my hands, especially with the 35mm 1.8G DX lens. And another great thing about this camera is that you can find it pretty cheap. If I remember correctly, I bought mine for about $100 or $80 around there during a used sales at my local camera shop. But for the price, you can't really beat that. And just going on to the cons, it's not really a deal breaker. It's just a nitpicking. This camera does not have an autofocus screw, so you won't be able to utilize the autofocus in the older Nikon AFD lenses like this lens, like the 51.4D or the 51.8D lens. You can use those lenses, but you just won't autofocus. Another bad thing about this camera is the live view autofocus. It's pretty bad. I don't rely on it. I only use it just to frame. Don't rely on it for fast moving subjects, especially if you're doing sports or weddings or events where there are fast moving subjects. I would not rely on the live view for anything quick. If you're doing car shows or portraits, the live view is really nice, but I would just not depend on it for professional work. Another bad thing that I've had with this camera too is the auto ISO. I think this goes for any camera. If you're on auto ISO, and depending on what lens you're using, the camera's doing its best it can to create the best photo in auto mode. So if you're using auto ISO, it's just gonna boost up the ISO depending on your settings. If you're in a dark situation, it's just gonna boost that up to high 0.1, which is like ISO 10,000 or something like that, and you're gonna get really grainy images. So just be careful and watch your auto ISO settings. Another bad thing also is the video recording time limit. It only goes up to 10 minutes max. I believe I have a 16GB card in the D3100, and the max you can get with the D3100 is 10 minutes max. But I mean, it is 10 minutes of footage. If you're recording an event, I would not use this camera to record long events, because you have 10 minutes and that's all you have. If you're recording some quick clips for 5 minutes or under 10 minutes, it's not too bad. But if you're going over 10 minutes and you want to live stream something, I would not rely on this camera to record anything longer than like 10 minutes. Also the battery too. The battery just drains the battery like crazy, especially since it is an older battery. If anyone out there has any resources on getting new batteries for this camera, or has had good experiences with third-party batteries for the D3100, please leave a comment below, because I would like to know too, because these batteries in the D3100 just drain so fast when I'm using live view or video. So there are some big differences with the D3100 and the D3000. The D3100 has video, the D3000 doesn't. The D3100 has a better and a newer sensor. The D3100 is not a CCD sensor, it is a CMOS sensor. The D3100 has 14 megapixels, whereas the D3000 has 10 megapixels. The D3100 also has better ISO performance. And also, did you know that this is Nikon's first entry-level DSLR camera with HD video recording too? I didn't know that until I started doing research on it, but that's pretty neat to know. I know that Nikon's first camera to have video recording is the Nikon D90. After that, they put it in the D3S and other cameras after that. And we'll get back to the D3100's video performance later in this video. I wouldn't rely on the LCD screen to get an accurate look at the image. My LCD screen is probably just aging because when I'm reviewing the images on it, it is not that sharp. But when I review the images on my computer, it's pretty sharp. I forget how good the Nikon D3100's files are to view and to look at too, especially the raw files. The low light performance is actually pretty good, right above 800 and 1600. At 3200 you will see some grain though, for sure. And as I've said before in my last videos, and if you've seen my other videos, I will always say that, you know, if you want to get good quality images, the lens plays a huge role in getting good quality images. One lens I will always recommend with the D3100 is the 35 1.8G DX. It is a prime lens, so that means you won't be able to zoom in and zoom out. You are stuck at 35 millimeters. But the great thing about this lens is that it's very affordable. I've bought mine for under $100. You can find a lot of them, depending on the condition it's in, for well under $100 too. I'll have a link in the description below. And if you had this lens, please let others know how good this lens is with the Nikon D3000 series too. The 1.8 GDX is one I would highly recommend. I brought it to the car show and this is how I did.
Wagon? Yeah, you do. I can't. I'm exploding. I'll be honest empty again. Don't go yet. Please sign the title here. It's already there.
I gotta say it. One name is Jesus. Your demon ain't gonna like it.
Change it to AFC.
Because all you might need are the shims under there. And put it
Talking about the video quality, let's just get a little bit more in depth with it. I would not recommend this for professional work. The autofocus is not consistent and it is pretty slow. The only lens that I've had good luck with is the 18-55 lens, and that's not saying a lot. That lens is a very entry-level lens. And all the bad thing about the video performance too is that when you're making changes, you cannot use a manual version of it. Unless I'm missing some sort of setting in the D3100, please let me know in the comments, because you cannot change the aperture, you cannot change the ISO, you cannot change the shutter speed. When you are recording in this D3100, you cannot make those changes. So the camera is automatically making those adjustments. The D3100 doesn't offer like your N-Log or your RAW footage. It's just an MP4 or .mov file. That's the most of what you can get with the videos from the D3100. Since it is doing everything automatically, you will need a lot of light to record good footage. And you'll need to keep an eye on your camera at all times to make sure that you're in focus with your subject too. And like I said earlier, when you are video recording, it drains the battery like crazy. I think the most I've ever recorded before I saw the battery go red was probably about 8 minutes. I don't even know if it'll get on to 10 minutes, but again, this is a 10-plus-year-old camera and it is a 10-plus-year-old battery. But for being Nikon's first DSLR, entry DSLR with high definition video recording, I'm not surprised. Nikon wasn't even known as a movie or video recording camera company too. I know that there were some cameras back then that did do video recording, but they weren't a camera you go with to do films with or to do movies with. And you know what, at least the D3100 has video recording, because I know like a lot of people wanted video recording in like the older D40s, D60s, D80s. This D3100, at least it has a functioning video recording. But as I said earlier, I would not rely on it for professional work. If you're doing music videos, sports, or fast moving subjects, to capture those subjects, I would not rely on it for video recording. And you know, despite the video performance really lacking, the D3100 is still a really nice camera to use. The raw files are great to work with. The high ISO performance is actually pretty good, especially if you know what you're doing. And it's very easy to use for someone brand new to photography or wants to really get into photography. It's an excellent camera for beginners. Put a good lens on it and you'll definitely get really high quality images from it. I was surprised when I put my 35 1.8 GDX on it, and it just blew my mind how good that combo was. Overall, I would definitely use this camera for everyday use. If you're going on a weekend trip, a camping trip, vacation, or anywhere you'd like to take a camera that's just better than your phone, the D3100 is one camera I would recommend. I know a lot of people are comparing this camera with like phone image quality, but if you're trying to zoom in, phone image quality just, you know, is just not good. It's not up there with even the Nikon D40, especially if you're zooming in. The iPhones, the Samsung cameras, I know they can zoom in, but the image quality is just a potato quality compared to these cameras with a nice zoom lens. It's definitely one camera I would still recommend in 2024. If you're on a budget, this one is definitely one of the better budget cameras that I've seen in the used market. There are 3 places that I would only use to find used cameras. It's Adorama, B&H, and KEH. Those 3 stores are what I think most photographers use, especially if in the USA. I know I've heard of MPB out of the USA. I've heard good things about it, but I've just never used it myself. I have used B&H, KEH, and Adorama to find used lenses and used cameras. So that's where I would look for if you're looking for a used D3100. And if you have a D3100, please leave a comment below and let others know your thoughts on it. And if you think about getting one, leave a comment too, and I'll try my best to help. I've done portrait sessions with the D3100 in the past, and I'll have a link of that video in the description below. And I'll also have links of the recommended lenses for this camera too. So if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really does help my channel. Just want to say, if you gotten this far, thank you for watching. If you have any questions about the D3100 or its settings, leave a comment and I'll try my best to answer. It's definitely one camera that I would still highly recommend you use, or if you want to collect or buy for someone that's new to photography. I would definitely highly recommend it, especially if you can find one for under $100. Get it. Have fun with it, and let me know what your thoughts are on this D3100. Thanks for watching, everyone. See ya.